I don't know, Doc. I feel all mixed up.
And what do you mean by that statement?
I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm seeing benches everywhere.
Doc?
Why does this keep happening?
Flybird somehow convinced me to do a bench comparison video featuring every single bench they make. So in this video, we're gonna be going over the good and the bad for all 6 of them. I'll be honest, I went into this thing thinking, how good could these extreme budget Amazon benches really be? I mean, they're extremely popular with over 55,000 reviews and an average rating of over 4.5 stars. But at these prices, there's gotta be some sacrifices, right? So we're gonna go bench by bench and separate the gems from the crap. And believe me, there's a bit of both.
Stop setting up the video and just tell them how you're gonna give some of these away. This is getting ridiculous.
All right, so we're gonna be giving most of these benches away because 1, I can't keep 12 benches, and 2, we figured it was a good opportunity to give back to the community that's been so good to us. So follow us on Instagram and keep watching that channel and we'll be doing those giveaways. Happy now?
Very.
All right, so for this video, we've got to set up our expectations. We're not comparing these directly to my other benches. Because as entertaining as it might be to compare them directly to a Rogue 3.0, I could almost buy all 6 of these for what that one bench cost. I will, of course, make comparisons when it makes sense, but I'm not going to directly compare them to all of my other benches. I do appreciate Flybird for trusting me with this one. As foolish as that might have been, because I'm always going to be honest, but they still sent me these fully well knowing that I wasn't going to change a thing I say. And besides, at this point, well, they can't take them back now, right? Their grammar is interesting at times, as is attempting to interpret their specs. So I will take every opportunity I can to highlight some of those gems for you, which brings up a really good opportunity to tell you about the company. Flybird was founded in 2016, and as they say, Flybird, which has designed and produced fitness equipment for 20 years, especially in weight bench. So by my math, in the past 6 years, they've acquired 20 years of experience, which honestly is a very impressive accomplishment. All right, let's get into it. It's Flybird time. Let's start this thing off with their foldable flat bench, and then we'll cover the adjustable benches in whatever the hell order I decide. As much as I want to pick on Flybird for some of their decisions because a few of these benches have some questionable design choices, this is actually a pretty decent flat bench for the price. With that Gluck discount code of 12% off, which is in the video description, it's just over $100 shipped. At least until they cancel me if I don't behave, which I never do. It comes pre-assembled, all you have to do is fold out the legs, so it's really not that difficult. Just insert your rod, get screwing, pull out, and boom, a bench is born. Functionally it works, I just hate dealing with and keeping track of little parts and pieces. Overall, it's a decent bench, which I know doesn't sound like much, but I'm used to having overbuilt benches in here that border on commercial quality. So I really didn't expect it to get used much, but people keep pulling it out because it's just so easy to move around and lightweight. At 17.2 pounds or 20.5 pounds? FYI, I weighed and measured every single bench out, so the chart I'm showing you throughout this video is using my numbers. And I'll update it as we go, so I don't have to say every little spec for each bench, but I'll point out the important stuff for each one. It's good that they're easy to move around because none of these things have handles or wheels, which really isn't a big deal because they're so lightweight and the back pad and the seat pad lock in place. That is for all except the Pro model. It's a pretty stable bench even given how lightweight it is, and the pad is comfortable and fairly grippy. I didn't have any issues sliding on the pad, but the feet are another story. It's a pretty clever idea where the cylindrical caps are purposely made off center, so you can spin them to adjust the bench if it wobbles if your floor is uneven. But if you're using leg drive during your setup or not holding a ton of weight, those feet can roll and the whole bench moves. And even if they don't roll, they just don't have enough surface area to really grip, so I'm not in love with them. One of the more interesting aspects of purchasing a Flybird product is trying to figure out what the specs are, and this bench demonstrates that with its weight capacity, which is more than 650 pounds or 1,000 pounds? Actually, depending on the listing, they go back and forth a lot on this one, and I have about as much clue as Flybird here, but I would not trust this thing with a 1,000-pound dynamic load. And that's not an insult to Flybird, but versus an FB 5000, which costs twice as much, it doesn't seem like it could handle that kind of weight, and personally, I wouldn't push any of these benches close to their maxes. On to the adjustable benches, and we'll start with the FB 139, which is the least expensive adjustable bench in the lineup. This is the original version, and then they remodeled it, and came up with a newer version with the waist pad. And I'll be honest, I really don't like this new version with the waist pad, but this one is pretty decent for the money, which is actually theme number 1 of this video. These are all much better than a bench snob like myself would have really ever imagined. And the FB139 is a great example of that if you can get over its flaws. So let's do the old, I say one nice thing and then one criticism to balance out my natural personality. And I'm counting my previous comments as my nice one, which brings up issue number 1 with this bench. This thing is curvier than Winnie, which is honestly quite an accomplishment. But I don't need my benches turning me on, I need them supporting me. And the taper serves no purpose besides subtracting surface area. So with either of these, I wouldn't try things like hip thrusts, or humpies as we call them, but with the waist pad version, forget it. That thing has more holes in it than the stories I would tell my parents as a child to get out of trouble. The main differences between the two, besides the waist pad, is this one has the upgraded feet and I suppose another 50 pounds on the weight capacity, which maybe is from that frosted steel. But your guess is as good as mine because they list it differently in places. But I have no issue stacking plates on this thing and finding out. But before I do that, I have to say all of these benches are more stable than I thought they'd be, given how lightweight they are and their footprint, which is theme number 2 of this video. All right, I'm pretty sure I said some nice things in there, so let's test it out.
I think one of the big failing points with this, and there are people out there that have had this fail, so I'm not recommending doing this, is that the tabs are actually welded onto the ladder. Now, even though this is well over the capacity, this is a static load that's evenly distributed, essentially ideal conditions. So under a dynamic load with more forces acting upon it, this would be a very scary test, and I 100% wouldn't recommend it.
The promo videos for both of these show somebody using them in a decline position, but it's not an officially listed angle, and probably for good reason, unless you enjoy that gap in your ass. It's just really uncomfortable to use at that steep angle, and that's basically true for all these benches at their lowest decline angle. The other issue with the decline, and that's true for all 5 of the adjustable benches, is that the leg support just isn't long enough or robust enough to make you feel like you're really locked in when using it. They say these 2 benches are for people that are 5'9" or shorter. But even that is pushing it a bit, and you may want to look at another bench if you're around that height because the back pad isn't long enough to support your head during inclined movements, though the length is fine when flat if you can bridge that gap. The pads on these 2 are comfortable and grippy enough. I do wish they were a little bit wider with this tapered shape or this weird shape and all these kind of holes because of the waist pad, but I haven't had any issues with them and I don't really slide around on them. They have 6 back positions and 4 seat positions. That's 6, not counting that extreme decline angle. And I normally shoot for 7 and 3, so no issues there, though the angles themselves are a little bit interesting. I'm not really sure where they came up with them, and I'd prefer them to be a little bit more traditional, but they work for the most part. And adjusting it is pretty simple. Just pull the pin and slide it into the slot. It's no cage ladder system, but you're gonna have to sacrifice something at this price point. Next up is the FB149, and you're gonna have to ignore me slowly moving the plates back throughout the video, which I'm gonna do to keep myself awake, because I film these videos either really early in the morning or really late at night while my son is sleeping. Anyway, this is an FID bench, meaning it can decline, and it's actually Amazon's most popular adjustable bench. But like the waist pad version, I'm not a big fan, but for different reasons. And unless I'm an idiot, which I am, but like a really freaking big one, I'm pretty sure there's 8 back positions and 3 seat positions. But Flybird lists it as 7, maybe because the final decline, like the others, just doesn't work for similar reasons, though the slight decline isn't bad. But my major problem with this bench is the vinyl is just way too slippery, and then the cylindrical feet make a reappearance, which isn't a good combination because it makes it feel less stable than it really is. Now they have up to the capacity, another 50 pounds, but I believe they say it best with
Can bear 700 pounds, fast adjust the place which fit yourself and automatic lock. Safety.
Which I believe is them referring to the adjustment mechanism for the back and the seat, which is upgraded on this bench. You've got a pop pin that just slides and locks into place, and it's super simple and quick to adjust. I feel like this could be a decent bench with a few tweaks. That is, besides the vinyl and the feet. The pad height is just too tall for most people at 18.75 inches, and the back pad is too short if you're tall. At 6 foot-ish, my head doesn't rest on the pad well during many exercises, and the pad could be a bit wider since it's only 10 inches. Next up is the FB299, which shares a lot of similarities with our previous model. The pop pin adjustment system is back and still great, and it's officially listed as 8 back positions and 3 seat positions, so one of us learned how to count, and it's not that I'm doubting their comfortable standard height. But it still has a height issue, and this one's even taller at 19.25 inches, and as I mentioned in my 10 things to know about a bench video, you probably want to stick closer to IPF specs for width, length, and height, since that's going to work for most people. Now, the cylindrical feet are back again, so the grip on the floor isn't great, but the vinyl is much better, much stickier on this one. I like the decline better on the 149, not that I love decline with any of these, because with the wider seat, your legs can brace against the pad better, but with this one, they taper the seat down, and I don't feel particularly secure. As the back of the leg bendy area, I don't know what it's called, it just doesn't have much pad to engage with. And though they've added a ½ inch to the back pad length, if you're tall, you might want to look at another option for incline work. Next up, we have the Flybird Pro Bench, which is by far their most robust offering. It has an 1,100 pound capacity and thicker gauge steel. With this one, Flybird is bringing themselves to the top of the budget and into the mid-range level. It's got a ladder style adjustment system that works pretty well, but it's trickier to move around because the pad and the seat don't lock in, and it weighs 50 pounds, so it really needs a handle and wheels. Now, the pad itself is pretty comfortable. I'd still want grippier like Rep Fitness's vinyl, but that's a personal preference, and I think most people would be happy with the grip on this one and most of these benches. I'm not sure why they taper the pad into the gap. It just makes the gap feel larger than the 2 inches it really is, but this bench is super solid. It's definitely the most stable of all of their benches, and with the wider footprint in those feet, it's not going anywhere. Now, I'm not so sure about that unlimited height, but at 6 feet, I fit fine, but I wouldn't go much taller. The real issue with this bench is at this price, they're bringing themselves into direct competition with Rep Fitness, who is widely seen as having the best budget options for adjustable benches. They've got the AB3000, which is more expensive, especially with that Gluck discount code, and the AB3100, which is generally seen as the best budget adjustable bench. Now, if you're gonna buy one of these things, I would look on both Amazon and Flybird's site, because normally on Flybird's site, they should be a little cheaper because they don't have to pay that 15% Amazon seller's fee, and with that Gluck discount code, you'll probably save some money. But sometimes they run coupons on Amazon, so it might be cheaper there. But either way, I'll link to both in the description. I know there was a lot of criticism in this one, but that's more of me just trying to be thorough. Where these benches excel, besides the price, is that they're lightweight and they have a small footprint, especially for the foldable ones, which, believe me, makes them easier to hide from the wife. Even though going through these was a bit like a roller coaster, I genuinely found them to perform better than I thought they would have before I actually got to test them. And I think they could have places in a lot of people's gyms as long as they accept a few things and don't have, crazy expectations for them, and realize that they're probably something that they will want to upgrade from later on. I feel like they have a lot of great ideas, but could probably consolidate them into less benches that have all the best features. When I really like something on one model, it would be missing from the next, but I have to admit, these got used more than I thought they would have. Anytime we needed multiple benches, and this is 100% true, somebody would just go grab one of these things because they were so effortless and easy to move around versus some of the mammoth benches we have here. Like, comment, and subscribe to boost us on the algorithm. Thanks for watching. We truly love your support. I'll see you next week.